So no, I think the EU will get squashed, and as you said, Hungary will go that way, and France, depends on who leads it, will go this way, and Italy will whatever Italy does.
What is the point of putting, tariffs, European tariffs on Chinese solar panels when in Europe we no longer produce solar panels? We need solar panels for the green transition, and we did it only because the Americans asked us to.
They are they're the Germany on steroids. Germany admires the Chinese because that's what they would like to be. An even bigger trade surplus. But 20 years ago, the Volkswagen, Beetle or Golf or whatever, was the state-of-the-art car in its class. That's not the case anymore. The state-of-the-art car in its class is called BYD and has other names. It's nowadays it's mobile phone companies that produce cars.
大家好，今天要分享的是今年5月，雅尼斯、瓦鲁法基斯和沃尔夫冈、明肖在某访谈节目中对话的节选。在这一段视频当中，两人就欧洲在世界走向多极化、中美两强相争的大背景下，能不能左右逢源，找到自身定位的问题，展开了坦诚的对话。最后得出的结论相当悲观，认为欧洲在人工智能、制造业等关键领域远远落后于中美，而且在政治上缺乏自主性和强有力的领导人。这种状况如果得不到改变，欧洲将会继续沉沦。雅尼斯·瓦鲁法基斯是希腊经济学家，主要研究领域是政治经济学和博弈论。他曾任希腊国会议员、希腊财政部部长，目前是雅典大学经济学教授，同时也是复旦大学中国研究院资深访问学者。雅尼斯对中国有一定的了解和研究，曾多次发表关于中国的言论，认为中国在非洲的投资建设比西方殖民行为人道，而且中国不干涉其他国家的内政。他还批评美国的对华新冷战政策，希望终结反华叙事，促进中欧合作。可以认为他对华是友好的。沃尔夫冈·明肖是欧洲知名的经济评论员和专栏作家，曾担任《金融时报》副主编，目前是新政治家的专栏作家。他的公开言论主要集中在欧洲经济、政治以及跨大西洋联盟等方面。我们来看看他们在这一段对话中是怎么说的。
Wolfgang, do you share this vision? Either way, I suppose, a stronger China is inevitable. Some form of bloc forming around it is obviously already taking place. How successful the United States is in slowing its own demise is, I guess, up for grabs. Where does Europe fit into this? Is Europe the forgotten spoke? Are we the part of the Venn diagram that nobody cares about? Is it Hungary to the Chinese and then France to the Americans? Or how does it play out, do you think?
Probably something like that, the broken wheel that's just on the side of the street. Something like this, if you want to keep to this analogy. I'm more uncertain about. I'm very, very. I believe China will. I'm in awe of the Chinese technological development. They are, they've just what they've done. For example, they were predicted. There's Chris Miller's famous book on the chip wars book. And he was very negative about China's ability to develop semiconductors. Now, in the last 3 years, where we imposed sanctions on China. United States imposed, high semiconductor bans. It stops the Dutch company ASML from exporting its machines. But China, for some, for reasons not understood by the American administration, has now managed to build, 4 to 7 nanometer semiconductors all by itself. And the Chinese, we've trained them in our universities for decades now. China is not a company that imitates us any longer. They are leaders in electronics and AI. I've been working myself extensively on AI, and most of the but Europe is nowhere in this. Absolutely nowhere in this. Not only in terms of the investment, but also in terms of academic research, in terms of the latest thinking, the latest papers, the latest developments. And mostly Chinese and American and increasingly Chinese contributors to this. So China is a very serious country, but what they would need to do, and this is going to be very difficult for them. They're running they're running the world's largest trade surplus. They are very hooked on this. They are they're the Germany on steroids. I mean, Germany admires the Chinese because that's what they would like to be. I mean, an even bigger trade surplus. And the Chinese do it through very open repression, financial repression. You see this. If you're financial and if you're a saver in Japan, and in China you get very low interest rates. It's a very bad deal, and the Chinese are managing this process. And it's going to be very difficult for China to rebalance. It's most of the stimulus programs, including the recent ones, are very modest. The country has a very, very low ratio of spending to GDP. It's mostly exports. This is where the country resides. And if it's building up this sort of network of friendly countries, it can't just be the reason the EU can't do this because the euro is not the global currency because we keep running these surpluses. We would have to at least balance our books. If you run surpluses against the rest of the world has to buy your currency. You have to buy. You're investing in everyone's as currency. The flow goes out of your country, and in the UK and the United States, the flow goes into your country, and that is not that's the reason the dollar. So the deficit, the trade deficit in particular, and the role of the dollar are kind of interlinked.
Wolfgang, can I interject for a second? I agree entirely with what you're saying, except that the United States in 1950 created Bretton Woods, dollarized Europe and Japan in order to maintain their surplus. The idea is we are going to be the surplus country. We're going to be selling you the stuff. You are going to be net exports galore. And then our surpluses, our financial surpluses, we will recycle them into Europe and into Japan in the form of aid, of loans, state loans, private loans, and so on, so that you have the money to keep us in a net surplus. So the Chinese now, unlike the Europeans, have two very good options. Now, I'm not sure they've decided which one to take or whether they should take a mixture of it. One is to render BRICS into a Bretton Woods system where they remain the surplus country. Their currency, with capital controls and so on, is the anchor of the system, where they recycle. They've already done it with the Belt and Road Initiative and so on. They could be giving all the credits that are necessary to countries like Malaysia, Pakistan, and so on, and even to Russia, and then sell them the net exports. And this recycling system, that's one option they have. The other option they have, which I agree with you, because I suspect you will also think this is the better option, is to rebalance their own economy by essentially boosting aggregate demand, consumption within. But, I just said they have two options. What does Europe have? Unless we create a United States of Europe, if we created the United States of Europe, because you and I have been arguing now for yonks in favor of a safe asset, a Eurobond. But you can't have a Eurobond if you don't have a federal treasury. And you can't have a federal treasury as a Democrat and not have a proper federation, a democratic federation. And we had this opportunity in 2012, 2013. Merkel killed it, murdered it. And now we don't have it anymore because the politics has become so toxic that we will simply never have it. So we don't have options. And that's why I believe that Europe is simply the stupid continent full of clever people that we are going to become utterly irrelevant.
Someone in this conversation needs to have a more optimistic note about Europe. And I'm going to take that role for one. Okay, but let me throw this at you. Why might Europe not be quietly a beneficiary of the bipolar sort of willy-waving standoff between the two mighty powers of China and the United States? We have got used in recent decades to basically attaching ourselves to the US. Maybe we now begin to attach ourselves to the Chinese imperium as well as the US, and we remain the place with the beautiful cities, the place where people want to come, the provider of luxury goods to both empires, and kind of stay out of it.
Wolfgang, you take this. I don't have the will to do it.
Europe as a museum, there will certainly some jobs in that business model. I just don't think this will be one in which 500 million Europeans will be employed and will be happy. and generally countries with very high degrees of tourism find in Europe, like France, find themselves often, in difficulty because tourism is something, it's not a great thing to be dependent on tourism.
Even manufacturing, like your German machines, German cars can be sold to the Chinese. It may well
no, they
be
can't.
Why not?
Let's just put your example. They can't. The problem with the Europeans is that we're no longer where we were 20 years ago. The German cars 20 years ago, Germany had crises before. There's nothing new. But 20 years ago, the Volkswagen, whatever, Beetle or Golf or whatever, was the state-of-the-art car in its class. That's not the case anymore. The state-of-the-art car in its class is called BYD and has other names. It's nowadays it's mobile phone companies that produce cars. It's actually no longer a car. Actually, a car is a digital device with some wheels around it. The modern car, the electric car, it's a completely different product. Like the computer is different from the typewriter, and the Germans are not good at this, and the British are not good at this either. We decided in Europe not to invest in these technologies that the Chinese and the Americans invested in, and we felt this was something to do with who we are, and we thought we needed to have data protection. And we taxed all these digital services, and we imposing our rules on those digital services. We felt very confidently that we can swing this, and in the process of this, we fell behind. And nowhere is this clearer than in Germany. I've just been to Germany. I could not hold a conversation in a train on my mobile phone. Very normal. The trains are usually late. People tweet. People write a tweet when the train arrives on time these days. Very different from what it used to be. The motorways are in disrepair, but the entire digital infrastructure is completely absent. Now they have a digitalization manager. They will probably find a way to replace the fax machine, which, interestingly enough, still exists in Germany and is heavily used. But this is not going to be the country that will be at the forefront of artificial intelligence, especially given that it has an energy policy that does not provide enough cheap energy for this type of operation. So virtually all the parameters of business going in the wrong direction. So this is why we have this pessimism. It's not like we can sort of wiggle through this sort of global standoff between America and China and kind of trade with both people. It's going to find it difficult. If the Americans don't want to observe our surpluses, the Chinese, have basically no longer need our products. This is what happened. I mean, Germany used to export tons of stuff to China until China developed a capability and turned it around. China's become a structural net exporter to Germany. China's beaten Germany at its own game. And Germans have invested strongly in China. The relationship is very strong. And I think there will be, you will try to maintain and recalibrate its relationship with China. I believe they will. I absolutely agree.
Let me be kinder to Freddie's optimism and his, good spirits regarding the possibilities and the prospects of Europe. Look, there is no doubt that Europe could do things in its own interest. For instance, regarding China. I'm not saying that you should become subservient to China. You should remain critical. You should remain vigilant regarding a number of issues that we have open with China. But things that they could do, for instance, abandon all the tariffs that they introduced on the behest of the United States, because the United States, especially under Biden, have been pushing the Europeans to impose particular tariffs, for instance, on solar panels. What is the point of putting, tariffs, European tariffs on Chinese solar panels, when in Europe we no longer produce solar panels? We need solar panels for the green transition, and we did it only because the Americans asked us to. And now the Americans play hardball with us. Why should we continue to play the American game against China when it comes to solar panels? That's one example. Secondly, we should have not only a trade deal with China, but we should also have what we had in April 2009 at a global level in London, when Gordon Brown brought the G20 together and organized a coordinated reflation of the world economy after the 2008 collapse. Now, Europe and China are facing the backdraft, the recessionary waves that are coming from the United States as a result of the uncertainty, the result of the tariffs and so on. We have a common interest with China for the European Central Bank, the Chinese Central Bank, for instance, to coordinate their policy in order to reflate both the Chinese and the European economy. Okay, we're not doing any of this. And I just honestly lose the will to live when I hear European great leaders, the kind of conversations that they have with one another. They discovered suddenly rearmament as, military Keynesianism as the way out of this, which is absurd. It is absolutely absurd. It will have no effect, macroeconomically speaking, that lasts for more than 2-3 years. It doesn't reorient Europe. So, Freddie, yes, Europe could do the right thing by itself, but I don't see the political structures that can produce. Once upon a time, we had a leader in Europe. I don't like her very much, as Wolfgang knows. Her name was Angela Merkel. But she had the political capital to give a speech of hope for Europe, let's say, if she wanted to, and to consolidate, to bring us all together. Now we don't have that. The Franco-German axis is kaput. It's finished. You can see that we have very weak leaders. Friedrich Merz, we had black smoke just like the Pope in the first vote in the Bundestag. We have lame duck Macron president. Even if they go together, now, when I was in government, there was a north-south divide. Now we have an east-west divide. Whatever the Franco-German axis say regarding Ukraine, regarding China, Poland, Lithuania, Estonia are going to veto it. So I hope you turn out to be correct.
Wolfgang, I'm going to give you the final word. Yeah, we've run out of time. So, Wolfgang, if there's any optimism left in the bucket, please find it.
We used to favor this. We stopped. We gave up because what's the point? The people. It's just if there is no willingness to create a European Union, sort of a small federal union, and there isn't. It's now getting politically more difficult. Even the Commission and the European Parliament no longer want it. So there isn't any more sort of, why advocate things that nobody wants anymore? And it's really there was a certain push for this in the 10 years ago. We've moved really backwards. And unless this changes, I will not rule out that it could change, but I don't see this on the horizon. So the EU has no plan. The EU has no plan to deal with Trump. The EU has no plan to deal with China. It has no plan to, at the moment, it's all about Ukraine. If you just listen to Ursula von der Leyen, she talks about the big idea is to fight a war with Russia. That's the big idea that the EU has. Why should I be hopeful that there's going to be an intelligent, strategic response to this incredibly difficult challenge that we're facing from China, the United States, Russia too, and follow our interests. We haven't done this. I don't see anyone who advocates this. So no, I think the EU will get squashed, and as you said, Hungary will go that way, and France, depends on who leads it, will go this way, and Italy will whatever Italy does.